Meeting to order and ask everyone to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The roll, please.
Belzak.
Here.
Clistic.
Here.
Kenny.
Here.
Marquez.
Here.
McIver. Shower.
Here.
Vaughn.
Here.
6 present.
We have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is questions, comments, and announcements of a general nature. Does anyone in the audience want to address the council on any matter? It doesn't have to be on the agenda this evening, but if you want to address us, you can please feel free to come up to the microphone.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Barbado, and I am with Sterling Bay, and we wanted to talk to you about the proposed amended zoning code on our property that's at Cass Avenue and 55.
Okay.
There's been some language that we have proposed that I hope has been circulated to everybody. I don't know if that's the case.
Does everybody in the council have
We
it?
have not. No.
Okay. So generally, I wanted to start by saying that we're 100% supportive of the efforts to amend the zoning code and be very cautious about the types of tenants that are going into that building. We're 100% supportive of that. The issue that we have discovered in the process of researching it is that there's a small and I think unintended but very important sort of consequence of focusing on the restriction of what they call tier 2 sort of chemicals that could be stored in a building. We're perfectly happy to live with the restriction of a tenant's primary business never being permitted to store those chemicals. The one issue that has come up is that in that building, in any warehouse building where there are battery powered lift trucks in the warehouse, which is the vast majority of the market, it's about 2/3 of the market for buildings like ours have battery powered fork trucks in the warehouse. With just a couple of those, it's maybe two or three batteries in the warehouse, that tenant is actually obligated to file a tier 2 notification to the EPA to let them know that those batteries are in the premises. And so the issue that we're having with the restriction on the use of the building is that 2/3 of the likely tenants, including some of the most likely tenants that we'd like to attract to that building, with a couple of batteries stored in the warehouse, file a tier 2 notification to the EPA, and they're not in compliance with the language that the village is proposing. So what we're asking for is just the sort of carve out or exception to that limitation to allow a tenant in the building to store battery powered lift trucks in the premises, which is, again, 2/3 of the tenants that are in the marketplace. So I think a really good example to sort of take it away from the technical and into the practical. I very recently, in my prior career before Sterling Bay, when I was in the industrial brokerage business, represented Kellogg, the food company, for 20 years and all their warehouse use all over Chicago. And we just did, probably 2 years ago, a project extremely similar to the building that we have under construction in your village right now. It was similar size, about 150,000 square foot space that we took in Woodridge. And it was exactly the type of tenant that we would want to attract to the building that we're building now, exactly the type of tenant that I think you would like to attract. It was a very light industrial use. It was distribution of packaged food products, cookies and crackers in small quantities on small trucks delivered in a local area. An incredibly light use with a great tenant. Kellogg had probably a dozen battery-powered lift trucks in their warehouse. They needed to file Tier 2 notification to the EPA that that's what they're storing there. And so if we didn't amend the language that we're proposing, a tenant like Kellogg, who's exactly who we would want, who I think is exactly who you would want in a building like that, would be prohibited from going there. So it's a very significant, it's a small and sort of, ancillary aspect of that sort of Tier 2 reporting, but it's an extremely important thing for the success of this building and to attract the kind of tenants that we're going to want, that you're going to want.
Brian, do you want to go over the language that they have proposed?
We got a couple emails this morning. I did not hand those out. The issue of the forklifts was not discussed at the Plan Commission, but was discussed at the Municipal Services Committee. And they reviewed this. So the language I have here was what Sterling Bay proposed in the black and bold.
Yeah, he certainly has copies.
And basically the language does exactly what was explained. It basically allows the
Carves out the exception.
it carves out the exception
for
the
those lifts. I'm sorry, your name again?
Mark Barbado.
Mark, that's right. Remembering that. But yeah.
Just as a little background, as the council recalls, this came about as a draft ordinance that went to the city council first and was directed to the Plan Commission. That was in what you have before you tonight is in a much different format. We started this out looking at uses, and it was very, very complicated. And what's before the council tonight worked its way through the Plan Commission, much simplistic approach, the Tier 2. So I think for the council, when you approve the first revision, you have to ask yourself, what was the intention? Obviously, it was, we were fighting something like sterogenics and other chemical uses, but I could tell you I didn't contemplate the forklifts as part of this, and I don't know whether the council did or not in terms of trying to, enact an ordinance like this.
Well, last week at Municipal Services, we discussed this, and the representative from Sterling Bay addressed it. And we basically said, and Mr. Gombe can correct me, that we didn't want to change this or add this language at this time. We felt that with where they are, even in their construction, not even knowing tenants that are going to go in that building, to put this provision in there opens it up to a point we don't want to open it up. And we told them, I think Dan assured them, that if they knew they had a tenant coming in that was going to be using forklifts, they could simply go through the process again with us, and we could expedite that and go through the process and make that decision. So all three of us.
So you mean a variance? Is that
correct?
What you mean by the process?
So all three of us, Tom and I, last week, we basically said that we didn't want to see this language changed or added.
Does that make sense to you now? I mean, with what we're looking at?
Yeah, my position has changed a little bit based on the fact that a week ago we didn't have this language.
We didn't have that.
Generic language that
Right.
Yeah.
we got to carve out something, or there might be other things that shouldn't be part of this. Now that I have specific language that really limits it to one thing, I'd be more inclined to allow that carve out.
Yeah, we did not have this, and one of the things we told them is we saw this ordinance as something that could be grow or change as time went on. We didn't see this as the end all or be all, and so that's why we advised them that if they came back to us in the future, knowing that a tenant was going to go in there with several of these forklifts, we would address that and deal with that.
Well, I think it's important that the council, the voting members, take a look at this, because this would preclude them from even asking tenants to come in if they know this is in place, if this restriction is in place.
And it's safe to assume that Attorney Murphy's already gotten a copy of this and looked at this,
Yes.
I'm assuming?
Yeah, we did not
No
have
issues
this.
with
We
that.
did not have
It's
this language.
policy
No.
for the council. Legally, it's
Okay.
appropriate. Just policy for the council.
Okay.
And candidly, this has been a learning process for us because we've never dealt with this kind of a restriction on a building, and it took some research for us to figure out the nuance of the lift truck battery. I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. We're 100% supportive of what you're trying to do here, and we want to be part of that solution. I think that the way that you're going about it is very thoughtful and very forward-looking, and we think it's great, and we want to be part of it. I'm here to sort of explain the market perspective of the fact that this will be an issue for 2/3 of the tenants that would consider this building. It just flat out will, and it will be an issue for, again, sort of the best and finest tenants that we could hope to attract, like my Kellogg example. And so conceptually, we're 100% on board with the sort of restriction of no tier 2 chemicals in the building if we can figure out a way to just account for what we know is in sort of highly likely set of events that of what a tenant's going to need to be successful in that building.
We'll just have to look for tenants that want to use lithium ion batteries
Right.
in their
Right. So I'll be happy. So we've actually talked a lot about that. So there are there are 2 ways to power a lift truck. There are batteries and there's propane. The fact of the matter is that batteries are the vast majority of the market, 2/3 of the market. It's trending more in that direction as companies are getting further away from propane for air quality emissions in the warehouse and things like that. The development of the trajectory of battery technology is such that it could be the case that maybe in 5 years all batteries for lift trucks are lithium ion. It's entirely possible. Right at the moment, it's a very small percentage of the market and a really, really expensive section of the market. So not only the cost of the battery, which is it's somewhere between 3 and 5 times what a sort of typical battery is, but it's also the infrastructure that you need to invest in to charge those batteries that's different than what conventional batteries are. So it's entirely possible that if we come back together 5 years from now, that could be 100% of the market. At the moment, it's a very, very small percentage of the market, so it's hard to say.
Is this on,
Mayor,
is this on the this is not on the consent
It is
agenda?
on the consent.
We'll have to
correct, yeah.
remove it then.
Yeah, just one comment too. I know, when we talk about environmental issues, obviously there's the public issue that everybody became familiar with Sterigenics we tried to address. There's also the employment issue, which either the Illinois Department of Labor or OSHA addresses. So there, in terms of the forklifts, there are numerous safety precautions, that are mandates and are requirements for the employment end, to make sure that, the procedures are safe and things like that. Whereas again, I think when this first came to the council, it was for really, the environment, the general public, and others outside of the building, which do have
Right.
many safety regulations. now.
Exactly. And to be fair, again, this has been a learning process for us, but the purpose of Tier 2 is basically to be a notification for fire protection, for example, that they know what's in that building before they're coming to treat a fire. So in this case, we don't think that what we're asking for is inconsistent with what you're trying to do, because the batteries are not emitting anything, and there's nothing, everything is contained within it's really just notification to the fire department that batteries are in the building. And so we don't think what we're asking for is at all inconsistent with what your objectives are.
Is it the amount of batteries? I mean, Home Depot uses fork trucks too, right? So, I mean, there's other businesses in Darien that use fork trucks. So, is the amount of fork trucks you guys requesting at Sterling Bay a lot more than other businesses? Is it per square foot, or what do you?
Yeah, it's actually it's a total quantity of, acid that's in the battery, basically, is what it is. And so it's possible, depending on the size and type of battery, it could be 2 or 3 batteries in a building like that would trigger the need to file a notification.
With the Home Depot that you bring up, if you look at the registry for Tier 2 in Darien, there's really only 3 companies, 2 gas stations because of the fuel, and also Home Depot for sulfuric acid and lead, which are the same components in the battery. So, but again, it's a different zoning district, Home Depot, so this regulation doesn't affect them, and they would be allowed to continue to use, their forklifts.
Okay.
And here's an ironic sort of subtlety to it that, again, we've learned in the process. Right now, without filing a Tier 2 notification, if a company came in and operated propane lift trucks, they could probably run a fleet of 30 or 40 propane-powered lift trucks, and that wouldn't be a sufficient quantity to actually trigger the need to file a Tier 2. But if you had 2 batteries, 3 batteries, it does. So they're just some sort of, whatever, inconsistencies or whatever you want to call
So that's
that.
pulled from consent, we'll address it. Yeah.
We're
so
going to
then-
pull, it's item D under consent agenda, so we'll be pulling, we will be pulling that off the agenda, so
Great,
you
thank
stay
you.
tuned. You'll want to stay
Thanks
for
very much.
the regular
Appreciate
meeting
it.
because
doesn't
this
have
will
to be
follow the
posted?
consent agenda.
Oh, sorry.
No, the procedure would be simply, there would be a motion, and Joanne, correct me if I'm wrong, but for an amendment, if you so wish to. The council has the authority, as long as the issue is on the agenda,
Okay.
to amend as you want at the public meeting. That's perfectly
Okay, so it
within
doesn't
the-
have to be posted 24. Okay.
Yeah.
That would be our request,
Okay, thank
to
you.
amend with that language. Thanks very much.
So luckily that saves me one less item on consent agenda, I
You gotta read
see.
it on A, though.
So,
You're welcome, Mayor.
what's that?
I said you're welcome, Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Gombeck, thank you very much. Well, let's move on to the approval of minutes. Let's take the two minutes for the administrative,
No, we didn't have a full council at the second one.
we can't,
No,
so they're just presented for the record.
for each one has to be separate.
Oh, I see what you mean, okay. All right, then, that's what we'll do. Let's take the minutes of the, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole for February 20th, 2019? Alderman Shower, seconded by Alderman Belzak. Discussion? The roll, please.
Shower.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Marquez.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
The minutes have been approved. I'd like to have a motion to accept, to approve the minutes for the February 26th meeting, the Committee of the Whole meeting. Alderman Marquez, seconded by Alderman Belzak. Discussion. The roll, please.
Marquez.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Abstain.
Okay, I have 5 ayes, 1 abstention, and 1 absent.
The minutes have been approved. Let's move to the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of March 18th. Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Belzak, seconded by Alderman Shower. Discussion? Any additions or deletions for the clerk? And the roll, please.
Belzak.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Marquez.
Aye.
Plistic.
Aye.
Kenny.
Abstain.
I have 5 ayes, 1 abstention, and 1 absent.
The March 18th minutes are approved. Let's move to receiving of communications. Do Aldermen have communications to share? Alderman Clistic?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I got a sort of a communication from our whole ward. On behalf of my ward, 4th Ward residents, and the rest of the city of Darien, I want to thank you for your 33 years of service, relentless service, and commitment to our city. It takes strength, endurance, and most importantly, love of making things better that made you such an amazing mayor.
Are you speaking to me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So you mentioned communication.
You
so
know
there's
what?
communications from
It
the,
just dawned on me.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll start from the beginning. So that's all right. That's all right.
You know she's got another meeting or two, right?
That's all right. It's okay. So the residents reached out on their behalf to thank you for your service. On behalf of Ward 4 residents and all the city of Darien, I want to thank you for your 33 years of relentless service and commitment to our city. It takes strength, endurance, and most importantly, love of making things better that made you such an amazing mayor. You made this city a better place for all, and most importantly, a nice place to live. And then got a little thank you card from some of our residents and all the
nice of
previous
them.
aldermen.
Thank you
So-
very much. That's very, very sweet. I have been overwhelmed, I'll have to tell you, by the phone calls and I will open that in a little while. Any other communications to share? Then let's move on to the mayor's report, and I have no report. Let's move on to the city clerk's report.
Meet and greet with the mayor will take place on Monday, April the 15th at 6 p.m. here at City Hall in the upstairs conference room. And also, I'd like to remind everyone to please vote tomorrow at the consolidated election, which is April 2nd. And the polling places open at 6 a.m. and they close at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. City administrator's report.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Let's move on to department heads. Chief Thomas, do you have a report for this evening?
No report, but follow up on last meeting where we were discussing being able to notify the public. Thanks to Alderman Lester, who taught me a little bit about connecting Twitter to Facebook. That is now done. So there's 980 followers on Twitter, 2,500 followers on Facebook, and over 4,000 that are following operations or activities that occur in the city of Darien. So
You said 4,000?
yes. So
That's a combined number?
no,
Yeah. Oh.
that's just Darien Direct Connect.
Direct Connect, I think he's referring to, yeah.
Correct.
We've gotten up to 4,000?
Close.
That's
I know
what I
we
was
were
told.
always-
Wow.
4,034.
Yeah, we
That's-
were
I
always
was
at
told
the
today.
high threes, so.
Yeah.
Just
you
under
know,
25%
That's
of the
great.
city.
That's
it's
great.
growing all the time.
So it's about 25% of the population between those three platforms, not including some other ways that we communicate. So I think it's very good about the way we're operating and trying to connect to the citizens. April is National Distracted Driver Month. Not to be distracted. So there'll be a little bit more enforcement by Darien and hundreds of other police agencies throughout the state. So drive careful.
Any other questions for the chief?
Yeah, Chief,
Yeah.
you mentioned the notifications on Twitter and that will go to Facebook. And you looked at a few of the things, I'll say categories that that will go out. So the intentions are for certain things to be tweeted. Not everything that the police will respond to, but basically somebody's, they're trespassing to get in your car, your house. There's about 3 or 4 things, and we'll focus on those things as the tweets and Facebook posts come out. And typically, Chief, on the press release, I know you don't always you don't give the exact address, you might give the street.
Correct.
So a lot of those similar things will be put out, again, in an attempt to accomplish what the council talked about last week. That's where we've moved to.
Yes.
Quick question for Chief Thomas. On Clarendon Hills Road and 67th Street, I know you mentioned you're going to do a few more patrols. I'm just wondering if they've noticed anything. Well, still a lot of speeders out there just in general, that intersection, or you haven't had a chance to?
Have not noticed
there.
any big change.
Any
I
changes?
did
Okay.
give Alderman Lester some information just before last meeting. Then there was discussion about how to move forward, and one of those things was to pull the accident reports. And so I've
Okay.
done that and updated that chart. I'm waiting for one more piece of information, and then I'll forward that on.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I had a few residents mention to me as well, so.
Yeah, well, we've asked KLOA to step in.
Correct.
And you're giving them your statistics so they can
Correct.
give us a report. Okay.
That will be.
Yeah, we'll be coming back to municipal services in April, along with engineering agreements. And again, the chief's information is going to be very pertinent as part of this study.
Okay. Any other communications to share? Then let's move on to, I'm sorry, we have municipal services. I cannot forget.
That you wrote me
Mr.
off,
Gamba.
Mayor.
I know, I'm still angry at the consent agenda.
Excuse me. Just real quick, just to dovetail off of Chief Thomas's comments in regards to driver awareness, construction season is coming up. So within the next probably 2 weeks, you're going to be seeing a lot of construction activity happening within the city of Darien. So again, be patient. We will put out signs. We do put out information. Every subdivision where construction traffic is happening, there is notification, whether it's leaflets or signage. We do that. So again, just want to let the public know. And just general construction, obviously, on our highways, we only have 2 seasons here, winter and construction obviously is coming up. So kind of want to put that word out there. Thank you.
That's the truth. Any questions for either Chief Thomas or Dan? Well, let's move on to the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening, I'm requesting council's approval for warrant number 181923 in the amount of $167,289.67 from the listed funds. Payroll for the period ended March 28th in the amount of $246,097.25 for a total to be approved of $413,386.92.
Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Kenny, seconded by Alderman Shower. Discussion? We had one question earlier.
Yeah, we
No.
talked.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
If there's no questions, let's move, The roll, please.
Kenny,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Vaughn,
Aye.
Marquez,
Aye.
Clistic,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
The warrant has been approved. Standing committee reports. Do the chairman have reports? Alderman Marquez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week, the Municipal Services Committee approved the minutes of the February 25th, 2019 meeting, and our next meeting is April 22nd, 2019 at 6:30 here in the council chambers.
Administrative Finance?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight's Admin Finance meeting was canceled due to a lack of agenda items, and our next Admin Finance meeting will be held on Monday, May 6th at 6 p.m. in our upstairs meeting room.
And do we have a police committee report?
The next meeting for the police committee will take place on Monday, April 15th at 6 p.m. in the police department training room.
Okay, let's move on to questions, comments, and announcements. Agenda related, the council already had an opportunity to respond. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the items on the agenda this evening that they'd like to address to the council? We give a couple of opportunities for people to address us so that they feel free to communicate with us. Let's move on to the consent agenda, and I'm going to read items A through K to let the viewing audience know what we are voting on tonight for our consent agenda. The first item is a motion to grant a waiver of the raffle license requirements for the Darien District 61 Educational Foundation. The next item is a motion to approve an ordinance approving the variation to the Darien zoning ordinance for the tower at Tri-State Fire Tower at 419 Plainfield Road. The next item is a motion to approve an ordinance granting a minor amendment to an approved planned unit development at the crossroads of Darien, which is one of our developments at Lamont and Plainfield Road. The business is called Caring Network. The next item is a motion to approve a resolution, approval to authorize the private property rear yard store water management assistant project. And there are 1 through 14 projects mentioned under this item. Too many to. We have advertised all of the locations that we are doing. So if anyone has any questions about any of the locations, please contact the city. But there are 14 locations within the city that will be receiving rear yard storm water maintenance projects. The next item is a motion to approve a resolution accepting a storm sewer easement for the following property of 7023 Sierra Drive. The next item is a motion to approve a resolution accepting a storm water easement for 7806 Stratford Place. The next item is a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of one new 2020 Peterbilt Model 348 cab, which will be our Unit 101 chassis and JX Peterbilt, in amount not to exceed $101,821.56. The next item is approval of a resolution accepting a proposal from Monroe Truck Equipment for the purchase of a dump body and snowplow equipment package, lighting accessories, hydraulic controls for the 2020 Peterbilt Model 348 that I mentioned before. And this amount is in the amount of $102,172. The next item is a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of one new 2019 Ford F-350 4x4 Super Cab from Curry Commercial Center in amount not to exceed $59,234. The next item is a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase and installation of the following from the B&H Equipment Specialist in an amount not to exceed $12,618. And I believe this all the equipment that's going to go onto the Super Cab?
Yes.
Onto the new 4x4 2019 Ford F-350? Okay. The next item is a motion to approve a variation to our Darien City Code for the Automobile Center of Darien, which is located at 6710 Route 83. Do I have a motion to approve all of those items? Alderman Belzak, seconded by Alderman Kenny. The roll, please.
Belzak.
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Vaughn,
Aye.
Marquez,
Aye.
Clistic,
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
All items have been approved. The fire department may leave if they so choose.
At this point.
You responded in full force.
Okay. Okay, let's move to the one item under new business. It's a motion to approve an ordinance amending the Darien zoning code, section 5A-9-1-2, regarding prohibited activities and section 5A-12-4-8 regarding registered pollutants, chemical uses. Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Belzak, seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Discussion. Alderman Clistic?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. One item that I noticed is rereading it here. The gentleman asked to use fork trucks into the facility, correct? But the writing here that you guys wrote in mentions that it's prohibited for business for which Tier 2 reporting is required only due to utilization, but not the manufacture or repair. So is that going to be a manufacturing facility and repair facility?
It's saying it's not going to be.
To the batteries.
It's not going to be.
Okay, not manufacture. Okay. I love that. Okay, so you can use it, but you can't manufacture it there. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm fine with
So
that.
Mayor, just procedurally, there would need to be the amendment for that when we get to that part.
Any discussion on the subject of the amendment that we heard from,
You need a motion to amend.
Yeah, you would need a motion to approve the amendment.
okay, so if there's no other discussion, I would like to take a motion to amend.
I make the motion to amend to include the language stating, as defined, except for the utilization of lead-acid batteries to power heavy-duty equipment such as forklifts.
Seconded by Alderman Shower. Discussion. Yes,
Just to follow up on what Alderman Marquez said, we did vote 3-0 in favor without this amendment. However, when we were here last week, the representative from Holland Knight didn't have any specific language for us to review at that time. So we all understood what the issue was at that time, but we felt it best to vote it without making any changes at that point because we did not have any specific language. I'm very satisfied with the language that they've suggested, and I think it carves out exactly what we need to do in order to make it a viable property.
Is these the same forklifts that are used at Home Depot, pretty much?
yes, that's
Exactly the same thing. Okay.
You know, I want to commend Sterling Bay for coming forward with it because in lieu of what we just saw down the street here, it's a forklift. It's just some batteries. It very easily could have just got slipped under the radar if they wanted to, and they came up with something small. So that tells us they're going to be good property owners here.
And the thing with this is, and people need to understand, this originated with us in our goal setting session, and it went to council, and then we sent it back to planning and zoning, and they probably had four meetings. Brian actually drafted the first draft. Steve Manning worked extensively on this. They met 4 times. Municipal Services, we met twice on this. So, adding something like this at this point just shows that it's a good ordinance and it's a move in the right direction because we can modify if we need to modify.
Yep.
Any other discussion? On the roll, please.
Well, first,
do we have to
we're
vote on
going
the
to take
amendment?
we're going to take the roll on the amendment first. Marquez,
Aye.
Mayor, I'm sorry,
Oh.
just so you see, there is a question.
Do you want to come back up here, please? So we can get your voice on the TV?
I just want to, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to clarify, the motion for the amendment was only on one of the 2 sections that's being amended. The language that was read was
the
only,
amendment for both, but
Yes.
the language that he mentioned was only from one of them.
Yeah.
There's a slight difference between the 2. I just want to make sure procedurally we don't miss that.
But not the manufacturer. Okay.
The language is different just because of the structure of each section, but
So we would add but not the manufacture or repair of lead-acid batteries used to power heavy-duty equipment such as forklifts.
Well, we have one set of language under section 5A 9-1-2, which mentions manufacture, repair.
Yeah.
And then the section for 5A 12-4-8.
We don't want manufacturer.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
So we want to adopt the language as presented for each section of the
Right.
ordinance.
So the language from 5A-9-1-2 would read, but not the manufacture or repair of lead-acid batteries used to power heavy-duty equipment such as forklifts.
That's correct. And but as I mentioned before,
And then the bottom
the
one.
bottom one does not go into the manufacture repair.
Right.
Yeah.
The bottom one just says except for the utilization. That one talks about the use of, one talks about the.
What?
You could label this as Exhibit A and approve the amendment to Exhibit A as presented is one way to do that, if you want to take this just as one item.
Each section?
No, I mean, this would be really the exhibit. If this would be Exhibit 1 and you're approving the amendments as contained in Exhibit 1, it's just one way to do that.
I think we have to make it clear for the clerk as
Right.
to what exactly we're
You want to take them separately, Joanne?
No, I just want you to tell me exactly what the
All right.
changes.
We are.
Okay, I see what you're saying. All right.
Okay, I'm.
We've been presented with proposed amendments.
Right.
We will call it Exhibit A.
And both amendments are acceptable.
The motion is to accept the amendments for both sections.
As proposed on Exhibit A.
Right.
Okay, all right.
I think
Then
we have
this is fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have a motion on
Okay.
this end?
Yes, you're making the motion to
Or-
accept the proposed amendments on Exhibit A. And who was the seconder?
Shower.
Alderman Schauer, and you're approving
So-
too. You're-
Exactly.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay.
All right.
Let's vote on the amendment.
I'm just asking, just a question, just for procedure. This was sent to us this evening, okay? None of us had it. Do we need? Are we in any kind of violation of Open Meeting Act by just submitting this at this point?
Brian
Because-
addressed Alderman Clistic when he asked that very question.
Okay.
No, I mean, the city council has the authority as ordinances, resolutions come before them or any topic to discuss those and make modifications. The issue was properly posted and noticed, so it's certainly within your rights to make that amendment.
Okay, because I knew he was talking about taking it off the consent and bringing it back to A. That's what we know we could do that based on Open Meetings Act policy. I just didn't know if we can just take language and
Yeah.
let's look
Oh,
at
yes,
Okay,
yes,
that's
because
what-
it's an
that's all I'm asking
amendment.
about. Okay.
All right, go ahead. Put the
Okay.
roll.
Marquez,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Vaughn,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Clistic,
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Okay, and now we need to take the roll on
The
the first, to pass the resolution, the original ordinance.
Okay, so
As
we
amended, right?
we
No, as
already,
amended.
we already had a motion or a seconder to that.
Yes, I
already.
have that,
Okay,
yes.
all righty. So
Okay.
is there any other discussion on this issue, now that we have the amendment attached to the ordinance? All right, then go ahead with the roll, please.
Belzak.
Aye.
Vaughn,
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Marquez.
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Clistic,
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
We should practice this a little more.
Thank you, Michael.
Budget. You passed the
When was the
budget.
last time those were updated? It's been a while, I think.
Skip it.
That's why.
You didn't pass it. You skipped it.
You skipped it.
Where did I
We
miss
went-
the
we-
budget?
New
It's
business
new
A.
New
business.
business A.
Now we gotta
Now
approve the
it's new
budget.
business B.
Oh, yes, I
Yes,
see
thank
that. Thank you.
Keep-
Thank you, Mark. And-
You're welcome.
and who was the guy behind her?
He owns some property. Or I think, I forget which property, he's a property owner of
Yeah.
one of the OR&I.
On Lamont Road,
Oh, on Lamont Road, Dan?
Yes.
owns Lamont Road.
Lamont Road, off of Lamont Road.
'Cause I
So he was waiting to see what was happening here on this one?
Yes, he was at some of the public
He
hearings.
was at our meeting, municipal services
I see,
meeting.
I
He
see.
was here
I see.
last week.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, because this applies to him too now.
It does and it doesn't. He's just one of those businesses that's curious and, wanted to just be updated and understand what was going on. Very
Okay.
nice gentleman.
Okay, so let's go back to the real item A under new business. A motion to approve the ordinance approving our 2019-2020 budget. Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Kenny, second by Alderman Shower. Discussion. The roll, please.
Kenny,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
Clistic,
Aye.
Vaughn,
Aye.
Marquez,
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 absent.
The budget has been approved. Let's move to questions, comments, one more time. Questions, comments, and announcements. Anyone want to address the council? Chief Molinari? Molinaro. Of course. How could I forget?
And you
After-
almost said it right.
Yeah, I know. Almost.
I just wanted to say thank you very much. I know it's not easy to, have change, and this is a big change, but it will definitely affect the emergency services in the town. And I just wanted to personally say thank you on behalf of Tri-State. I think it's going to be a big step forward for us meeting our needs into the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I thought they were part of our dispatch.
Tri-State,
They
Darien
got their own.
Woodridge is, but they
Yeah.
went with Addison. They have a different,
Yeah. Yes.
I have a concern about Sterigenics, and it deals with the fact that if you go up and down that street, you don't see any action at that location, and I realize that they're closed. My concern is if they're going to be leaving Darien, or excuse me, Willowbrook, if they're going to be shutting that plant down and they're going to be leaving, and I know there's a court case, there's a court hearing on Wednesday, how are they getting rid of the ethylene oxide that is currently there?
That would be the EPA's control.
Well, can we
What's there,
ask
Joe, on the outside in the dirt,
The
or you mean
premises-
in the
on
building?
premises, you mean?
On the
There's some
premises.
cleanup going on from a previous.
Well,
I know
I know there's a cleanup, but my concern is when this place is eventually closed, and I think, to be quite honest, my feeling is they're going to abandon that place. That's my hope is that they're going to abandon that, because you don't see anything going on there. But if they do that, they have to have supplies of this stuff there. And my concern is how are they going to get rid of it without further endangering people in Willowbrook or Darien? And how can we find out how they're going to get rid of this? I can't depend on the EPA to tell me straightforwardly how they're going to do that.
It'll be. It's in the, as we know, it's in the court's hands right now. And if there is a settlement and they choose to close the operation down, the court will have a great say in exactly how that will happen.
Yeah, I mean, any remediation of property, whether it be a gas station or Sterigenics, like they're doing now, would be permitted and monitored by the Illinois EPA. And, in terms of if that shuts down and abandons, we'll be in contact with Willowbrook, but it's my understanding that they're still monitored, or their closing would have to be monitored, and all their chemicals monitored, and the outside cleanup monitored by the Illinois EPA.
All right. There's no way we can find out ahead of time by have Murphy contact Berlin's office. Is Berlin involved in this at all?
Well, the Illinois Attorney General and State's Attorney are the ones
Right.
in litigation. We would find that out. I mean, just by conversing. I think it's premature to ask that now,
Yeah.
because I guess it depends. As the mayor said, maybe there's something in in this court order, in the lawsuit. I think part of the frustration on the cleanup, and it's a good question, is even now where they're cleaning up on the outside from a spill that was some months ago. It takes a while, and there was not a mandate to get that cleaned up in 2 weeks. So some of these environmental buildings, again, whether they be gas stations or other things, do not move fast. But I'll talk to Tim Halleck and Willowbrook and see if maybe they've addressed that already.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is a bit premature. To.
Well, I mean, it just seems there's been a lot of deceitful behavior that's gone on with this company. And my concern is if maybe they're doing something the EPA is not aware of, and they're moving this stuff out of there, and heaven knows how they're moving this stuff out of there. That's my concern.
I'm sure. I'm
Well,
sure
there's
the village of
probably-
Willowbrook would know right away what's
and
going on.
enough residents snap pictures of that place and put
Well,
it on
yeah,
for
and I
any
realize
activity.
that.
So there's certainly a lot of eyes watching that. But I could see if Willowbrook has gone that far yet, as
Yeah.
in terms of if it closes, because again, that is not yet decided. So
Right.
Yeah, it's across the street from the village hall. It's behind the village hall so they can see
Oh, I
exactly
go up
what's
and down
going
that
on.
street a lot, I know.
Yeah,
It makes this a good point, though. I mean, if they decide to abandon it, would the city be responsible for cleaning it up or any of
we
that? or
can't
would
answer
they-
that. We
It's
wouldn't
just,
know.
you know,
Theoretically,
if
that-
it's similar to the gas stations and other environmental properties we've had cleaned up here, no, the Illinois EPA oversees their remediation, and there's, again, I'm not sure about this because this is a different animal, but on a environmental cleanup for fuel underground, you have to have a remediation plan.
Right.
It has to get approved, and there's a process for that
Okay.
that the Illinois EPA
Yeah, has
has
to go through.
and is a requirement.
How well we know.
How well we know, yes.
Yeah, how well we know.
You see how long it took them to clean up the gas station in Westmont at 63rd and Gas. Can you imagine how long it's going to take to clean that up?
Well,
Look
how
how long it
about
took
the,
to clean up the Darien Cleaners spill.
Exactly.
The
at our
laundromat.
strip
The laundromat.
That
mall
was 3 years.
and the gas
at
station
least.
on the corner.
Exactly.
Look
yeah,
how
the
long it took
laundromat was
theirs.
Where
forever.
the clock tower is.
Where the clock tower is. That took years.
What does that mean?
Oh, I know what he's doing. I know what he's doing. He's giving him a dig about the clock
Tell you
tower.
about a
He's just having fun.
Let me tell you about a sales contract I wrote recently. On that note.
Okay. All right. I think we've reached the point where I can actually say, do I have a motion to adjourn? Alderman Kenny, seconded by Alderman Vaughn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, she does it faster. She does it faster. I didn't do it.